Kantbot, hello, sir. Welcome to the Killstream. How you doing?
Hello?
Hello. How's it going, Kantbot?
It's a pleasure to be here, Rolf.
Thank you, man. So, you've never been on the show before. What I usually like to do with people who haven't been on the show before is let them introduce themselves to the Killstream audience.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
In 1892, there was a conference that was held in Geneva, and it was called the Geneva Nomenclature Congress. And it was at this convention that they came up with the idea of an organic compound, okay? And so the Rockefellers, who were big into the oil industry, they made most of their money transporting the oil through the railroads. So obviously back in those days, you know, they did what was called like surface mining of the oil. It was very abundant. You could just get it right off of the surface.
Right.
Just carry it in buckets, you know? And so in order to create a scarcity of oil at the 1892 Geneva Nomenclature Congress, Rockefeller actually sent people there to influence the result, to have oil classified as a fossil fuel. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I'm following a little bit. I mean, are you on an aircraft or what's going on here as well? I hear a little.
I'm fine, actually. I'm fine. But
okay.
So in 1892, when this happened, I mean, this created the idea that, okay, oil was an organic substance, right? And it was rotting flesh, rotting material from underneath the ground, that it was fossil fuel, quote unquote fossil fuel. I don't know why they called it fossil fuel.
Sure.
You know, it's just like this was what the public needed to hear in their mind.
It comes from the fossils of dinosaurs and shit, though, right?
No, that's actually
there weren't that many dinosaurs.
Ralph, that's actually not true.
Well, I just know what they tell me. Yeah.
As I'm saying, in 1892, that was the point of the Rockefellers trying to create scarcity for this, right? As they came up with this concept, they had oil, petroleum classified as an organic compound to create this myth that it was, you know, the result of rotting dinosaur flesh that was underneath the ground, and there was a limited supply of it. That's not actually true. The actual truth is that oil is a naturally occurring geological substance. It's not an organic substance at all, right? It is created through geological processes. Do you understand?
Right. Yeah.
Pressure.
Okay, sorry. But no, what I was just saying was, it's actually, this is what we would call the abiotic theory of oil. Russian geologists are actually very well versed in this. This is actually something that a lot of people don't know, is that in Russia, all the geologists are, you know, they prescribe to this theory of abiotic oil generation. Did you know that? I mean, that's something that a lot of people don't know.
Not really my strong suit topic, no, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the point is that oil actually occurs much deeper inside of the earth than what you would tend to believe. It occurs deeper in the levels of stratification within the earth than we have been led to believe. It's much lower. And it occurs through a natural geological process that produces this oil.
Right.
And actually, you know, people will say, right, that this oil is a, you know, organic compound. They'll find traces of little microbiotic life inside of the oil, and they say this is proof. But that's actually not proof at all. If you are familiar, I don't know, with the deep hot biosphere hypothesis, the idea of that is that there's actually a whole kind of substratum of life deep within the earth that a lot of people, we don't even know about. We don't even know what the actual total biomass of this would be, obviously. And so this actually feeds on oil. So these little microscopic organisms actually feed on the oil that's produced deep within the earth. And that the oil itself is not the result of any kind of organic process, but it's actually food for organic organisms.
All right. But how did we get here?
Let me just, I just have a couple things that I want to say, Ralph, about this. Is that
sure? Go ahead.
So, organic oil theory, I mean, that has created a false sense of scarcity. It leads to the theory of peak oil, which is, obviously a complete falsity that was created by the government and by Rockefeller to, keep the oil prices high. I don't know. It's actually pretty devious how they did it, but they've actually done some experiments where they've drilled down to find oil deep below where any fossils should be. So they've gone back, in the stratification of the Earth way back in history to before there was all this life on Earth, and they still find oil. So oil really bubbles up. It seeps up from this geological process in this deep hot biosphere, and it bubbles up, and that's how the wells get filled. So the wells, there's way more oil than we've been told. The oil
they've been lying to us.
Volume is way larger. So the peak oil theory is completely false. And another thing that I would like to talk about is that there is also some speculation. Like, where does, maybe this oil has a volition of its own. Are you familiar with this work? It's called Cyclonopedia. It's actually a very good book. I'd recommend it to your viewers. It's called Cyclonopedia. It's about oil. and about our conflict for oil in the Middle East. And so oil actually has, I think, of some scientists believe, a volition all of its own. And actually oil may be directing human events, and especially the wars in the Middle East fought over oil. So not only is oil not an organic compound at all, or not an organic substance, it's actually an inorganic intelligence. That's something that, I don't know if the government wants you to know.
I would have to
like
press...
a hive mind, or...
Yeah, I would probably have to press X to doubt on the oil being sentient, yeah.
I've looked into this a lot. There's a book out there that I would also recommend. It's called Black Gold Stranglehold. That's one that I think that your viewers would find very, very interesting. So, I've gone to some different scientific conferences, especially in Russia, and this is actually the source of a lot of our geopolitical problems with Russia. So do you think that this is really being fought over all this nonsense that we're always being told about? I don't believe so. I actually think that this is the secret war of the theories of oil, is that geologists are in control of both the Russian and the U.S. government, and they're fighting out a shadow war right now over these geological theories of oil. And so, obviously, I don't know if your viewers may be aware of this, but the U.S. geological industry, the academic industrial complex of geology, is actually heavily funded by the Rockefeller Foundation.
It seems to all go back to the Rockefellers. Yeah.
Well, obviously, the Rockefeller Foundation is one of the most important nonprofit organizations in the history of the United States. So they've had a large influence on world events and on domestic policy. So they are actually heavily involved in maintaining this kind of like false hypothesis of biotic oil, which, as most evidence points that this is not true. So I don't know how aware you are of the history of these things. I think it's actually very interesting for your viewers to maybe know a little bit more about this.
Well, I hope I think you just gave them a short lesson. Now, we also have callers as well. Somebody wanted me to ask you, actually, one of the producers here, wanted me to ask you about Stefan Molyneux.
I'm not aware of him.
The bald man on Twitter, he talks about defooing and stuff like that. I don't know if you still don't remember. Isn't he Canadian? Is he Canadian, Gator? I don't fucking know. I thought he was from Canada.
Probably.
I don't know. You don't.
Occultist?
Well, some people have said that. I don't know. I can't say.
I think I know. There's a guy that I know that I've seen out there who runs a cult, and I see him on Twitter. I'm not really sure what his deal is. I just think you're talking about that cult leader guy, right?
Yeah, some people have described him as such. Yes.
Okay.
For $1, you can
as such, or?
I
don't know his deal. I just like what's your opinion about him?
I have to keep my powder dry here. I do know that he wanted me to set up a debate with Destiny, and then he backed out, so I'm still not too happy about that. So he's not my favorite person, really. No.
No, okay. well, I mean, I don't know anything about him.
I mean, I don't hate him either, but yeah, he's not my favorite guy, to be quite honest with you. Okay.
I don't know anything about him. I just know that there's a cult leader out there, and I accuse him of, I point to all the evidence leading his cult, and people get mad. I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in kind of like, geological theory and sort of the shadow war that's going on between geologists around the world over the control of oil and the theory of oil.
All right. Well, we have to mix in some other stuff.
Now, do you think that perhaps the oil might also be controlling? Because if the oil is an inorganic sentience, perhaps it has adapted the ability to directly affect the minds of those it interacts with.
Absolutely. This is a common, presumption that I would have. I mean, what do you think caused Gulf War syndrome? Especially when they were burning the petroleum wells, when they blasted the caps off, and you've probably seen the very striking photos about this from the Gulf War with the oil wells that were set on fire. Yes. That was a lot of exposure to kind of, the psionic energy that's encoded within the oil. And one of the actual very interesting things that's economically been going on about oil recently is that, I don't know if you've been tracking the oil prices and seeing what's been going on with that, is that they've actually, we've had these incidents where all of a sudden now there's too much oil and the oil isn't being used up, and the oil is overflowing reserve space. So it's actually caused oil prices to go down. In some cases, they've even gone negative, which is amazing to think about, is that there's so much oil, and the oil companies that are pumping it are actually paying people to take the oil away. And that's incredible when you think about it. Like, why would they even do that? That goes against all logic that you might have negative oil prices. So it's actually overflowing our reserve space of all of the tankers and all of the space where we can put the oil. That's, running out. And that the oil is seeping out into reality. It's actually permeating everything, taking control, and we can't burn it fast enough or anything. It's actually insane.
All right. Hold up. Okay. All right, give me a second. Let me read these. Sigma Zero says Trudeau's mother really got around, huh? Julie6 just subscribed for a month. Thank you, Julie. Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to mute the bombing raid here for a second. Let me read these. Guns Up Exhale says, is this guy in a B-17 going on a bombing run over? And then it says blank. I don't know. I'm not sure where he's bombing. Hold on, let me just a second. Harry Sovetici says, caller spot on plus bomber command background ASMR. Out to Beef says, is this guy, I'll unmute him for this because this is not fair. Is this guy an idiot, autistic, or a troll? That's what he wanted me to ask you.
I'm actually consider myself a follower of the Greek philosopher Socrates, so yes, I am an idiot, and I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, fair enough. Herod Silvatici says, oil plus diamonds, both false scarcity. No, I don't drink. Dumptrick Assy says, what if oil is his dog whistle for Israelis? I don't know that that's the case. Shinchan 256B says, so oil is like the spice from Dune? Herod Silvatici says, bring back the bomber command.
Talk about Dune. That's actually an important...
Dune.
We'll talk about Dune.
Okay, let me read through these. We'll talk about Dune for sure. He said, bring back the bomber command sound. You don't have to worry about that. It came back. Terry J says, hi, Kantbot. Would you have rather met Adolf or Prince? Adolf Hitler or Prince the singer?
Who's that?
Would you have rather met Adolf Hitler or Prince the singer?
Who?
Hitler or Prince?
I know the music of Prince. I'm not familiar with the other person you listed.
Okay, Prince then. Prince it is. Okay. Guns Up Exhale says, this dude is going on a bombing run over Luxembourg. Shinchan 256B says, oil conspiracies on a B-52 bomber. Sentient oil. Sigma Zero says, coast to coast PM needs to be a weekly segment. An old man named Soup says, looks like I picked the wrong week to quit pills. Why would you ever quit pills? Let's see. Winston Fujimori says, Kantbot, quit simping for oil. Get on that thorium like a real king. Globalist BTFO'd. Also, I liked your podcast with Dasha from Red Scare. That was what Winston said. Good answer there. Thank you. Colin Stevens says, is this a long lost phone call from the infamous Flight 93? Is this the new 9/11 of the internet? Is this Streamception? I don't know what this is, but he says, fix it, Ralph. Thank you. Lollies are and aren't degenerate says, thoughts on trying to get Cultured Thug on the stream? You know what? I'll tell the secretary and we'll see what we can do. Okay, Kantbot, you said you wanted to talk about Dune.
Yeah,
Dune?
Are you familiar with Dune? I love that book. I think that's a very accurate representation of history.
Yeah, a little bit. No, I'm not an expert though, really, but what did you want to say about it?
Well, I want to say that, yes, absolutely, the spice represents oil. That's one of the things I think the author Frank Herbert was trying to get at, is also the psychedelic properties of oil, like we were talking about before. Obviously, this, like it caused Gulf War syndrome, is exactly what I was saying. And it definitely has mind-eroding and psychedelic properties to it when you get exposed to oil. This is, obviously why people huff gas. Have you ever huffed gas?
Not gas. I've huffed air duster before when I was a teenager.
Okay, so why?
I mean, I've smelled of gas and be like, oh, it's gas. Oh, wow, that's strong. Well, because I only did it a couple times. It gets you high. That's why.
See, that's the problem the Aboriginals have in Australia, is they've been huffing lots of petrol and they go completely crazy.
By the way, Chad, I'm sure you're stunned about my
academic podcast. I was told this was an academic stream. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I would recommend don't huff.
You got told the wrong thing.
But there is a psychedelic property there in oil. So if it can be refined, obviously. I don't know if there's also another substance. It's similar to a substance that's only found in certain animals called trillium D. But if you refine that sort of stuff, you can put it into your syringe. You can.
Are you flying in for a guest appearance on an academic podcast right now? Is that what you're calling us for? I'll take that as a yes. I'll have to mute that for a sec though. Okay, I'll take that.
Okay,
I'll take that as a yes.
You can inject the oil intravenously. You can put it right into your veins, and there is a lot of psychedelic properties that come with it.
I don't think so. I don't think that's true. I
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't recommend you do that at home because you need some very sophisticated equipment. I have to something that the Russians have been working on. That's something that the Russians have been working on, from my information that I've heard in my circles. I actually met Robert McNamara of the World Bank one time, and he was telling me a bit about that.
McNamara, well, he's been dead for like, I don't know, 15 years or so, probably.
Okay. So I guess they didn't let you in on that one. Maybe next time. But,
maybe next time. Okay.
So they have been developing this sort of technology. This was part of what MK Ultra was originally about. They went with LSD as a substitute because the oil was too uncontrollable. So they've been working on this for a very long time. Alan Dulles was a personal user of it. He got very heavily into, using petroleum psychedelic compounds and intravenously injecting it. A lot of people don't know that. He actually, he was a student of Jung, the Austrian psychologist. So he studied with him, and his wife actually did therapy with Jung. And so they were definitely talking about kind of the collective unconscious, that sort of theory. And I think that when they hit upon oil, and this is actually at when the U.S. Geological Survey went into Saudi Arabia to measure the oil fields there. This was before the Cairo Conference in World War II, and so they went into Saudi Arabia to actually measure how much oil was in the wells, right? And one interesting fact about that is that the pilot of that mission was this guy, Fletcher Prouty, who was later the director of strategic ops at the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff Office, he was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And he has also commented on this. He has some videos on YouTube you can check out. You can look at Fletcher Prouty's oil theories and dig into that a little bit. And that's actually an interesting thing to look at. But beyond the point of that is that when they went to go and take measurements of the oil field, that's when they first started getting into all of this, psychedelic petroleum.
Let me cut you there.
What was
We'll-
actually really
Go ahead, finish up your thought. Go ahead, finish up your thought. Finish up your thought.
okay. So they actually first hit upon this, and basically Fletcher Prouty, he told Alan Dulles about this mission because they had some kind of strange side effects. They were actually taking measurements, right? So he was he told Alan Dulles
Don't
about
look,
this.
audience. Do not inject
saying
oil.
that-
Don't do that. It's gonna fuck you up. Don't do that.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't tell anyone to do that because as I'm saying.
You
this
seem to be pro injecting oil. That's all I'm saying.
If you're a Russian chemist who has the right equipment to refine this, none of your audience, I assume, is that. I
Well,
mean,
I don't think
I
they
wouldn't
are.
recommend that your audience try that, but under the supervision of someone with the right technology, you know, part of this geological shadow war that I've been talking about, yes, they do inject it into people, and especially soldiers. And this is actually one of the big causes of why a lot of U.S. soldiers, of why suicide rates are so high, is because of the use of this psychedelic
Suicide
drug,
rate is
which
about to go up after this show. Let me read these. Funker Rumpel says, best month ever. Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'll have to turn that down for a second. Herod Silvatici says, is Kantbot calling in from another dimension? Kyler Subcultured says, dude is on some Andy Kaufman shit. Just roll with it. Cheesehead69 says, Destiny agreed to Fuentes Blood Sports. Message him. You're really on that. Okay. You know what? I'll message Nick after the show and see if he really wants to do it. And I'll message Destiny too. Okay, fine. I'd like to host it. You better not be bullshitting. Herod Silvatici says, so Kantbot. Okay, let me turn him back up. Okay. He says, so Kantbot saying oil basically Venom from Marvel. Is that a good way to describe it?
That's actually interesting. I mean, I don't personally, you know, subject myself to the psychic poisoning of comic books or Marvel and try to. But if they are actually propagandizing, you know, these sorts of technologies, these narcotic psychedelic technologies based on, you know, deep biosphere abiotic oil, that's actually really interesting to put that out there in stream. So I'm not really sure what their plan or intention is with that. I'm not thrilled with it. I would hope that maybe your audience go look up Fletcher Prouty and read watch some of his videos.
I hope they'll go
maybe
there.
Learn more about this before just kind of like accepting this huge deception that's going on.
All right,
I'll go right away. I'm down.
Oh God, Andy, thank you. Good to hear your
I'm
voice.
gonna inject myself with some oil. I think you convinced me, Kantbot.
Wigger,
How
baby.
much technology is that? You know, do you have a laboratory that you're working with to do that? Because
He's a
I
walking
have a friend.
laboratory. He's a
friend.
walking laboratory. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
There's
I have a
15
buddy.
different substances coursing through his veins at any given moment.
Yeah.
All right.
okay, so I mean,
He can handle it.
you already fucked up. I mean, whatever.
How did I fuck up? Oh,
I don't know who you are.
The gasoline will
I don't know who
fix
you
it.
are.
The gasoline will fix it,
That's
though.
Andy Worski. He's a co-host here on the show.
I've never heard of him.
Well, have you heard of him?
Maybe because
Andy?
you're flying around on that plane. Fucking what the hell?
All right.
Are you in a rocket or a plane? Where are you? Are you flying?
I'm totally okay.
No, are you flying? No, I mean a plane. It sounds like you're in a. Or are you near a giant fan? An oversized fan?
I'm fine.
No, I said, are you flying like in a plane?
I'm okay. I'm totally great. Thank you for asking.
Fly FLY. Okay, what the fuck is that? He didn't fix.
You don't understand, Andy. We're on a secure channel. We're trying to make sure that the psionic oil can't spy on our conversation.
Are you
Also-
flying over Iraq right now?
Oh, so tell me when that ends, because I can't have the beeping extended. I have
This
to turn
is
that
fucking
down.
fan posting. What is this?
Oh well, it wouldn't be the Killstream without the Fed posting. Okay, now let me read the rest of these. Wigger Baby says, "Can you talk about Mitchell Heisman's suicide note? I don't know what that is."
We
I
can
wish
definitely talk about
Kantbot had
that.
a suicide note.
Oh, Worski, no!
What?
Don't say
It's a
that.
joke. It was
Can't-
LOL. Just joking.
Kantbot, go ahead. What is?
He can say whatever he wants. I don't care about him.
All
I
right.
don't
Oh,
know who
thank
he
you.
is.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Can you talk about Mitchell Heisman's suicide note? I don't know who that is. I don't know what's going on with that. Or is there a story behind that? Or
Well, it's actually quite a long story. I'd be happy to tell it.
Well, I mean, a summarized version, perhaps, not the full, like, 30-page.
Are you familiar with the Norman conquest of 1066?
Yeah.
Where the
A little bit.
This is, I mean, it's obviously
Pretty
very
seminal event in
basic
Western history. Yeah.
So, just in case any of your listeners don't know if they were using gas or something, I'm not sure, but this was when the Normans came and took over England from the Anglo-Saxons, and they installed themselves as the monarchs, the leaders. And basically, Mitchell Heisman sees this as kind of the fracture point of all world history, and basically everything that's come since is, part of the shadow war between the Normans and the Anglo-Saxons, including the Civil War and basically all human conflicts that have since followed.
All right, good deal. Okay, let's see.
Wow.
Weeby P. Hole says, is oil code for liquefied foreskins? Let me check entropy. CDG says, how about Kantbot doing some blood sports, him versus Keith Woods? All right, he's in. Pencil Cowboy says, what's the deal with this lunatic? Turn off your bullshit. He calls you schizophrenic, and then he says something about a bullet. Yeah.
He's entering orbit.
Yes, Kantbot.
He's entering the atmosphere. I mean,
I'm gonna
he's leaving orbit.
I'm gonna have to turn that down. It's getting too loud. Tell me when it goes back down. Can you please, panel?
I feel like I'm in like a Marvel movie, like the final battle, and I'm in like the vortex of like the final boss's like Kamehameha, you know?
It's all led up to this for sure, Andy. Absolutely. It really has.
I feel like my atoms are like vibrating so fast that I'm invisible.
Each step I've taken since I came out of that slammer has led to this moment right here today, I have to say. All right. Okay, Kantbot, I just want to thank you, man, for joining the show. We have a few minutes, but I see your audio's getting a little suspect.
No, I'd be happy.
Okay, now I can't hear him at all. But he's still in the call, so I don't know. Okay. Yeah, he did good. Thank you, Ken.
There we go.
I appreciate you coming on the Killstream. All right. Thank you so much. Plug. What is his podcast, Worski? I have to look it back up.
I had no idea what I feel high right now. What happened? Who was that? How did he?
The audience wanted him on. I've seen Kantbot on Twitter for a while, so I do know who he is.
Tech Wars, by the way, is his podcast.
Tech Wars. Yeah, and I was trying to read out his Patreon pseudodoxia, I believe. Patreon.com/pseudodoxia. PSEUDODOXIA. Okay. But yeah, I was getting too loud. I can't.
I'm just disappointed.
The chat loved him. The chat loved him, so they want him back.
I was just disappointed that Big Oil kept trying to interfere with the signal. I wanted to know more.
Somebody in chat said this episode's sponsored by ExxonMobil. Perhaps. I didn't think about it. Do not inject oil, though. I will say that.
No, you could. It's all good.
I think I need a fucking dose of oil.
You don't.
Yeah, it sounds good right now. Eh? Some oil right now. Yeah.
Tomorrow night it's just gonna be the Weekender. Next Friday we're gonna